Hello everybody! We're going to be working on a marshmallow fondant today, and I'm just going to start making the fondant. Calls for 1 bag of marshmallows and 2 pounds of powdered sugar, confectioner sugar. I'm going to try cutting the recipe down. So there is 1 cup of marshmallow. I made this just a few minutes ago and it was way too wet and runny. So I'm going to carefully measure out the water. There's about 1 teaspoon. There's 2 teaspoons. 3 teaspoons. 4 teaspoons. And I'm going to use this spoon to stir this with, and since I'm using a very small amount of marshmallows, it's only going to be 20 seconds at a time in the microwave. The recipe came off the Wilton.com cake decorating site, and you'll find a lot of recipes there and a lot of techniques on how to use fondant. So 20 seconds and then you stir the marshmallows, and what's happening is that you'll see that the water has absorbed a lot of the heat, and that by stirring you're getting the water that has been heated all over the marshmallows, which in turn causes them to melt. Now they're still fairly significantly solid at this point. Stick it back in again for another 20 seconds. The full batch says that it could take 2.5 minutes to melt your marshmallows. In the first batch, they were melted within 50 seconds. So I'm doing 20 seconds at a time, and then we'll see what happens after the second batch here. See, now those are already, there's some significant melt in here already. They have expanded significantly. That's the other thing that happens. Your marshmallows expand. And when you stir them after they've expanded, then they melt. So what I have in here is a very, very sticky substance, and it's very warm. I don't think I even need to add anything at all. It's kind of a runny, it's just melted marshmallows with, like I said, 4 teaspoons rather of water. So now I'm going to add 1 cup of sugar. Falling down in there. I'm just going to pour the whole cup of sugar in there. And start by folding it in. After stirring it in like this, it says that the fondant should be rolled out on the countertop and then kneaded like bread dough. I may actually have to do that with this batch because it has not absorbed all of the powdered sugar. The first time I did this, there was way too much water in it, and with way too much water, the powdered sugar did not do it. It didn't even look like there was sugar added. It was too runny. So this is not really absorbing all of the powdered sugar. So what it says to do is to cover your fingers in solid vegetable shortening. I am using coconut oil, which is solid at room temperature, because that's what I have in my house right now. And then it says to rub the oil on your countertop, and I will go ahead and do that. This is to help you get it off your countertop when you're trying to clean up. You're not actually going to be eating the coconut oil. Now, if you want some flavoring in your fondant, you're certainly welcome to do that. Vanilla extract maybe, or almond extract, a mint or a peppermint perhaps, or perhaps 2 different flavors, I don't know. I did not add any flavoring in this particular batch, but you're free to add whatever flavoring you might like. Now, see, my fingers were covered in oil, and they still, that stickiness really still stuck to my fingers. So we're going to try kneading it. So this is really just 2 ingredients. It's the marshmallow and confectioner's sugar. And that is it. And if you have any experience with bread dough, you can see that what we're getting here is a dough. I'm going to go back and add more of the coconut oil. Like I said, I made a batch just a few minutes ago that was way too wet and runny. So I have a little bit of maybe left over from that laying around the counter here. This batch that I'm looking at right now seems to be a very good consistency. I actually like this. It's not sticking to my fingers at this point, and it seems to be malleable, and I can shape it and form it. So this is good. I actually like this. I would like to get some of this stuff off my counter, because this is where I'm supposed to be working from. And now I have some of this stuff that didn't get mixed in very well on my countertop. Okay, so stick, I don't know. So if you are actually doing this quite often, you may have a lining or a rubber sheet or something like that that you put down when you're kneading and rolling, like rolling out your cookie doughs. Feel free to use that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is separate this into 3 sections, because I want to have enough to make an apple later. So I'm going to separate off a section for red, and I'm going to separate off a section for the white and a section for the blue tops. So I have 3 balls here, and I guess I'm going to try to make them equal sized. Now, this looks a little large for a mushroom. I'm going to cut this ball into half, and so you can see that there is maybe the bottom of the mushroom, and this is again a little on the big side for a mushroom, but it at this point holds its form. So this is blue. I'm anticipating that it won't require very much, because I've seen how much was required previously when I put the coloring in the almond extract, in the almond bark. So that's 1 drop of food coloring. I'm going to pull it out of here, and actually the Wilton website says that when you're using food colorings and food dyes, you should, or could, actually use a rubber glove or some kind of glove so that your hands do not become colored by the food coloring. Now here I still have a big clump of the food coloring in here that has not been mixed. I do not want to dye my countertop, so I'm just going to use my hands. I'm actually going to get some more coconut oil, think 1 drop of the food coloring is really going to go far enough here. The comparison it's quite good. Kind of blocking the light from my work surface here. So this is a nice kind of a light, it's a light blue. Okay, so it's a light blue mushroom. The recording was interrupted earlier by a dead battery, so I went ahead and did a few things while the battery was charging. The mushroom here, I finished the top on it, and so what happened is that this is actually quite a large mushroom. You don't need to make them that big, but it is finished. There's a little blue top and a little white stem, and that's kind of what you're looking for. I also made some red and green colored balls. At this stage, after it's been rolled out and you've kneaded it and you're starting to form your creations, it's much better to put them on a wax paper so that you can easily lift them off. So since this was all about making mushrooms, we're going to start again with a smaller one, and I found that the coconut oil, I have some here on this on the board here, is really essential to rolling these out. And I also found out that if you don't use gloves, you can dye your hand with the food coloring. The coconut oil actually helps to keep the food coloring off your hand and keep it washable. But so that mushroom is perhaps a little too big, but we still want the wider bottom and the wider top. So what we want to do is maybe squish out a bottom, squish the bottom, and then squish a top. So this white base is going to be the bottom of the mushroom and provide the pedestal for the top to sit on. Now, if the mushroom top is a light blue, you can make it any shade of blue you like. I used 1 drop of blue in that ball, and it turned it a very nice light blue. So this top is maybe a little too small. Let's put a little bit more in there. Now, I used 1 drop of green for that size ball, and I've used like 4 drops of red, and the apples are still going to end up looking pink. But, you know, since it's so easy to actually just buy a real apple, I don't know if you really actually honestly need to make an apple. But again, to make the mushroom top, you just roll it out into a ball and then kind of just in your fingers start pressing down on the edges. What I did initially, I had some trouble getting it out of my hand, is I put a lot of coconut oil down on my hand and just sort of started forming it and shaping it as it sat in my hand. Now, if you look at the mushrooms in the game, they have quite a large and tall top on them. But if you have fingers that are juiced up enough with this coconut oil, it turns into a nice glossy coating on there, and you can actually lift it off your hand, and then you just set it on top of the mushroom, and it will stick there. So there's another cute little mushroom, and I think this one's a little cuter. It's smaller, it's a little more dainty, and that one is actually too heavy and is starting to tip over with the weight. So you want to go with something a little bit smaller that has a decent size thickness of a base, and that's really all you need to do. It's they're not perfectly solid, but there you go. Now this is supposed to be an apple, and people that do this often will have tools for shaping things. I just basically have a spoon and my fingers. I did cut my nails, and that helps a little bit. But apples are essentially just little round balls. They don't have a lot. They don't have a a lot going on. You know, you've got we have some apples that have a certain shape. They're not necessarily red delicious apples in the game. They're just apples that have an indentation in the top like a normal apple. Like a normal apple would have an indentation at the top. And then to make it, you know, really look like an apple, you'd probably want to just take a little piece of green and a little piece of brown stem. I did not even actually make a little piece of brown stem because I don't know that it's that important to have it, but if you certainly wanted to, you could. Just take a little piece of fondant, your marshmallow fondant, press it between your fingers, make it a little oblong shape, and then you have a leaf. I mean, if you need to make the lines through the fondant, you can do that with a basic knife. I've used this to pick the fondant off the countertop, but you can make little scratch marks in there. I did use this on fondant, so I'm sorry, there's a little bit of white fondant on there already. So yeah, you can mark the leaves. I'm not saying that's great or anything, but you can do that, and then you can stick your leaf on your apple. And if you wanted to put a stem in there also, you certainly could. So again, you probably want to go with a lot more food coloring, and for some reason this red is really turning out pink. So I don't know, honestly, if I were you, if I would go ahead and make the marshmallow apples. I think I might just go with an actual real apple. However, I think this marshmallow mushroom, it turned out really cute. And I definitely go forward and use some of those, and I do think that the smaller one, and there's the size of my hand, I think the smaller one turned out better than the larger ones. You can flavor them like I said before, and I really like using this this coconut. I really like using the coconut oil on my hands, and my hands feel great right now. It's almost like a nice moisturizer as well. So this was fun. Oh, and for storage purposes, you probably just want to keep them on these small pieces of the wax paper until you're ready to actually serve them. You might even actually want to serve them off the wax paper. And of course, if you're making these ahead of time, you want to make sure that they're stored in Tupperware or something that is sealed and covered with plastic wrap. I wouldn't want to make them too far ahead of time. You can read on various websites on how long this stuff will keep. Thank you for watching my videos. I hope you enjoyed the rest of the videos on my channel. I have a video that discusses all of the food items that can be found in the game, the ones that are edible, the ones that are just for viewing purposes in the game, and the restaurants that you can just see but not actually get any food from in the game, and then just some other elements like the chests and the loot drops and the llamas and things like that. Those are all in one video. I have another video of making the blue mushrooms out of the Jello, and blue mushrooms out of the almond bark and the Rice Krispies. And then I have another video on the blue shield potions. Oh, and the Durr Burger video. So there's a lot of food items that you can make for like a birthday party or a Fortnite theme party. So go ahead, check out my other videos, and please subscribe to my channel. Have fun. Good game.